Niall Horan reveals his Spotify playlist, which is already inspiring album number 4. Millions of admirers have Niall Horan on their Spotify playlists. But who does Niall Horan have on his? I usually listen to my Spotify Wrapped. There's a lot of Bon Iver in there, and there's a lot of T Swift, he tells People, just minutes before taking the stage for an intimate Spotify event in New York City. Do you know what I have? I have a playlist named Fourth that is already thinking about my future record, including influences. It's not as simple as, I'm going to write this song, but rather like sounds, stuff, and guitars. I have Kyoto by Phoebe Bridgers, Dijon, and The Dress. For many artists, planning album no. 4 before releasing album no. The 3rd of May be getting ahead of themselves. But for Horan, 29, the release of the show, his 3rd album, is so long overdue that he can't help himself. The singer-songwriter says he's been aching to perform in front of an audience, especially since his 2nd album, Heartbreak Weather, was released just before the pandemic struck, forcing him to cancel a tour. On Tuesday night at Powerhouse, he was able to accomplish exactly that, performing classics old and new for a small crowd of a few dozen of his best Spotify fans, who were also allowed to submit questions for a Q and a session with the singer. Tonight is very intimate, which is amazing, because they'll hear the album in its purest form, without all the bells and whistles and production, he said. So I actually think this is the perfect way to hear a record for the first time, really, in its original form, in the way I wrote the songs. The new songs that made Tuesday's lineup included already published hits Heaven and Meltdown, as well as the ballads The Show and Science. The acoustic tune You Could Start a Cult, which Horan said was the last track he composed for the album, and the funky On a Night Like Tonight. Despite telling the audience he had a sinus infection, the singer performed a flawless rendition of Zach Bryan's Something in the Orange, as well as songs like Slow Hands in This Town. Horan, who recently won his first season as a coach on The Voice, says the epidemic inspired much of the show and drove him to dig inward. Watching the news at 6 p.m. every day it obviously triggered other thoughts, internal ones that I would never have thought about, he says. During the epidemic, we were largely upset because we had lost all of our control, which we valued. We lost control of the situation. So I believe there was a feeling of thankfulness for what we had before. I believe it has affected all of us.